Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, me and Will, both from the Quivr CRM team. What is Quivr? We are the CRM built by financial advisors for financial advisors, where our objective is simple. How can we help you run your business at peak efficiency? Now, each episode, we tackle a couple of cool items that came directly from our users who are trying to do just that, make their lives a little bit easier. Will, is email pretty important when you were practicing, or no, you never used email, did you?
No, I mean, it's been a couple years now, so we sent everything through interoffice memo, and like we had that manila folder that had the little string on it. You'd, put all your correspondence, and then you'd hand it to the next desk, and off you go. Yeah, I mean, we didn't use any digital technology when I was practicing.
I'm not surprised. You've been around for a while. I'm not surprised. No, but email is obviously an incredibly important part of most practices out there. And again, I love that Quivr is built on Salesforce. There's a ton of positives. Um, and one of the big positives to being built on Salesforce is we have access to the AppExchange, which is where we have thousands of different things that you can plug into your system. And I know we talked about it a few times, but right, Salesforce actually created the App Store. They were before Apple. They were before the Google Play Store. And one thing that we do see, maybe one or two of the most common places we see users leverage the AppExchange is when it comes to emails.
Email is a tricky one because there's a ton of edge cases. There's like, I get this email and I think it's from like one person, and it tries to associate it with the wrong household, or, it's from an attorney and it's trying to link it to their firm instead of linking it to the client. Or then, even more challenging, I go to try and start doing stuff with email inside of Salesforce.
Yeah.
And I discovered that not all email is the same inside of
And
Salesforce.
also, do you remember the use case we had a couple of months ago from a firm? We ended up learning they were actually doing a little bit of a sale, and they didn't want certain users to know about it. So if you're linking every single email, but you have your leadership team emailing outside company about selling, like that's a huge thing too. So you're right on the matching. And one of my good friends is a client, and he runs a state farm agency. Is this an email about his client relationship? Is this an email about somebody else? Like, the issue that we run into with email is it's just not always black and white. It just isn't. It just is not always black and white. It can be incredibly nuanced.
Yeah, it's full of edge cases. It's just, there's no way around it. I mean, you might even be talking about something that all of a sudden, in that chain, it relates to something else. Like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I meant to mention, we've got your estate planning documents all ready to go. And you're just, having a conversation about where you're going to have lunch with this attorney. And all of a sudden the conversation changes. So yeah, you need a little bit of flexibility. You need the ability to account for some of these odd situations when you're dealing with your email.
And maybe the most two common routes we have is people use the internal Salesforce option, right? Or like we were going earlier, they use the AppExchange one. And Will, go ahead and explain why somebody might want to use like a Match My Email or a comparable tool.
Yeah, so what you start picking up is the internal tool that Salesforce offers right now is called Einstein Activity Capture. And basically what it's doing is it's syncing data over from your calendar, it's syncing data over from your email. It's capturing that information inside of Salesforce and attaching it to records. The challenge with it is EAC, those records aren't the same type of records that we commonly think about, in that if you want to go, kind of deal with them in more sophisticated ways, there's some limitations. Salesforce doesn't really give you a full record in the way that some of these other things are in the system. And so one of the things that, a lot of our users are typically looking for is, I actually want it to be a record. I want to be able to either attach it to other stuff or move it around, or, change how it's being mashed. And we talked about that one as well a minute ago in terms of, how it's associated in the system, or I want to filter some of these out. The apps that you get from the App Exchange, these, bolt on additional Salesforce tools, they give you more customization typically. They give you a little bit more firepower in terms of the ability to, do more sophisticated things. And then in this case, they actually transition those emails into what we think about when we talk about records. It's something that is like, there's actually something in the system that I can grab, I can do stuff with it. And so you get a lot more, you just get a lot more power, you get a lot more specificity, and you get more ability to then interact with something on the back end. And there's, if you,
Will, just to provide a little clarity on what you mean by record, for Quivr users right now, when you're in the activity timeline, that chronological list of everything you've done, it's going to get them in there so that they almost look like tasks in a way, but they're emails. And that once they show up as tasks, in the fashion that they do, you can query on them, you can report on them, you create a formula field that says, tell me the last time I've sent an email or received an email. So you can actually play with it. Whereas Einstein Activity Capture, it doesn't show up like that. It's more Einstein Activity Capture is almost like for example, I use Black Diamond. And Black Diamond has an integration, quote unquote, with Money Guide Pro, and they say that they embed Money Guide Pro information into Black Diamond, and that's true that they do, but that data can't be played with. It's just single sign-on. So it's presented there, but it's actually not stored in the Black Diamond database. Therefore, I can't really do anything. It doesn't show up in Black Diamond's API. It doesn't show up in that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how EAC, Einstein Activity Capture, works. It's quote unquote in Quivr, but it's like I'm view only or read only my Google inside of.
It's not all the way in. Kind of, it's like half a record. You can see it, but then when you want to go like touch it, there's like a plate of glass in front of you. You can't get to it. And so that for a lot of our users, that's frustrating. And I would say we guess around this a little bit. I think probably more than half of our users are using some type of an email capture tool at this point. My guess is it's probably like 65 to 75%, somewhere in there. And it's usually after, you know, I want this feature, I want this functionality, I want it to be able to do something, and I can't do it with EAC. And that's typically where then, okay, great, I need to go out to the AppExchange and find another solution.
And I would like to actually just do like rapid fire on reasons that you might want to do this. Like one is have the records stored in there. Another one is EAC, the native Einstein Activity Capture. It syncs every email. So if you don't want every email in there, a third party tool could be really good. If you want to limit visibility into emails, leadership team can see everything. So these bigger firms, right? We've got a lot of 20 to 50-person firms on Quivr lately. Firms like that where they do care about privacy and secrecy are on that. You want the records to be stored, which is big for compliance purposes. What else, Will?
Yeah, it's typically, the way that I look at it is once you get into more of the filtering component, once you get into more of the like, what do I want to be able to see? Do I want to bring everything in? We've had a couple of users who, they're bringing everything in and then they get to a point where they're like, it's just too much data. Like I feel like I'm getting flooded with all this stuff. And I just want you know, the pieces that I find valuable.
Hmm.
And so they're saying like, okay, I need a little bit more control. I need a little bit more functionality. And then, this is a really advanced topic. But like your ability to then start, creating automations off of some of this email stuff, like you're going to need an actual record in the system. And so it's typically like, as people get more sophisticated, as their needs become a little bit more, I need data that I can actually interact with, things like that. That's usually when we see people start reaching out for these tools.
It took me a while. I don't think he'll care if I say his name, but Stephen Frauenrath at Kennedy, he's the guy that finally got me over the top to use Match by Email. The big push for me was I wanted the actual records so that I could actually query on them because I found that it made my search prep easier. Because then I could see every single email inside of the media module in a more clean fashion right next to the rest of my tasks. Because it's not uncommon to resolve tasks inside of email, right? Like, oh, this is done, boom, boom, boom. So it was able to maybe refresh the entire chronological, what has happened in the last 6 to 12 months with the client. So that to me was worth it. This isn't a sales pitch for Match My Email. We don't get anything if you guys use those. We don't do any of that stuff. But it's, I think, $20 per user per month. It's small enough where I don't notice it. I know that much. But yeah, so a couple $100 a year to make my search prep easier. That's all it took. But if you have questions about email, why we would or wouldn't do something, again, come to office hours and we can discuss the pros and the cons because this is a very common topic that we get, especially as firms start to grow. Maybe the solos or the 2 or 3-person teams, EAC works fine. They kind of get what they need, but as those teams start to scale up, that's when we start to see these questions. But that's a wrap. Good stuff as always, Will. If you are a Quivr user, remember, come join us for office hours on Wednesdays where we can help with similar items. And you'll notice that this is not a how do I create a custom field conversation. This is a philosophical, or this is even a I wish this part of Quivr could be better. Is that possible? And more often than not, the answer is yes, because we've either had the same issue or wished we had the same solution as you're looking for, or we've helped another Quivr user conquer a problem. If you are not a Quivr user, that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes and nobody is perfect, but don't worry. It's not too late. Come schedule a demo. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with Will, and we'll show you live what Quivr can do for you.